Welcome to the Labour Force. I'm Mongeni Muchwa. South Africa is counting down to the start of the 21-day national lockdown to reduce the spread of the deadly COVID-19 virus at midnight tonight. For many workers, it will be a time filled with uncertainty and fear. Businesses from mines, except coal mines because they have to supply Eskom, factories and shopping malls are going to shut down. Workers in their millions will be required to stay at home for 3 weeks in line with a presidential decree to fight the spread of the coronavirus in the country. Now, on the eve of the country lockdown, the Department of Employment and Labour has cautioned employers not to make their employees pay for the national sacrifice with their leave benefits.
We've been inundated with lots of calls from workers from the different sectors raising this issue of being threatened by the employers or forcing them to sign the leave forms taking from their annual leave. This is a national disaster, not created by the employees nor the employers. Therefore, we're appealing to the employers to be sensitive, not just to think about their profits or savings from this, to think about the workers and the workers' rights, to think about human life.
Employers who can't afford to pay their employees during the shutdown need not worry. The government stands ready to step in. Funds have been set aside to pay affected workers a minimum of 3,500 rand a month and a maximum of 17,700 rand. Again, employers are being warned that enforcing the no work, no pay rule during the country lockdown is prohibited.
The country is going to go on a lockdown. To us, that means that companies will shut down and employees will be laid off. When employees are laid off, there's a facility that we have provided so that employees can benefit while they are laid off. So we see no reason why employers, of course we encourage that employers who can afford to pay their employees must do so. But those employers who cannot afford, cannot instruct their employees to go on unpaid leave. When government has provided an assistance, when government has provided a relief in the form of the unemployment insurance fund, temporary employer and employee relief scheme. So we would like to appeal to employers to help us work together for the benefit of our country so that no employer or employee go home without access to the salary that employee would ordinarily have earned if there was no COVID-19 or if there was no lockdown as announced by the president.
No one knows what will happen at the end of the 3 weeks. An extension of the lockdown by the president is not being ruled out. Mongeni Muchwa, SABC News. To discuss this further, we welcome the General Secretary of the country's biggest labour federation, COSATU, Mr. Bheki Njali, who joins us on the line. Mr. Njali, thank you very much for your time. This is an extraordinary time, an extraordinary day as we count down to the beginning of a lockdown. No one has been there before in the country. We don't know what's going to happen really over the next 3 weeks, but what we know is that come tomorrow, millions of workers are going to be laid off, to use the language of the authorities, that is the Department of Labour. How do you feel?
I think this is a difficult time for our country, for our people, for the society as a whole. This is a time that needs a maximum cooperation that we have never seen before. We want just to salute to those workers that will be on the front line during these difficult times, who will be able to keep our country going to save life. We join hands with government calling on employers that they needed to be patriotic during this particular period. They needed to go out and assist those workers that are expected to come to work because there's no public transport during this time. So they have to be sensitive. They have to reach out and be able to help everyone that is needed to stand in on duty to ensure that the country is going. And I want to call our members and all workers to take the directive from our president to stay home as much as they can so that we stop the spread of this virus. We should not panic. We should be calm. We should be able to know that this virus can be beaten, provided we cooperate, provided everybody take and act in a responsible way. It is really a difficult time. I want to calm everyone, not only workers, but let's be responsible. Companies, shops, will be open, will be able to buy food. Food security will be provided. So let's not just panic and give a wrong impression, a wrong alarm, and we must be careful for the fake news.
Now, Mr. Nchalinchali, the Department of Labour, the Minister of Labour, Mr. Chulas Nxesi, they will not disclose how much has been set aside to pay, to give income to workers that are going to be laid off over the next 3 weeks. But we've seen some figures being bandied about, some even quoting 30 billion rands. You've been involved in the negotiations of this national disaster benefit by the UIF. Will there be enough funds to cover all the workers who will come forward and require assistance?
Money will never be enough in any society, but according to the information from government, that reserves have been built that can take us beyond the period that we're talking about. So there should be no alarm or fear that money will be running out, people may not be paid. But I want to reiterate the point that has been made by the Minister and the DG, that employers who can afford to pay workers, they should do so. Because those workers are working for this company in a loyal way. They're making this company to be what it is up to now. And I think this is the right time for the employers to do kind of a pro quo, to say to the workers, you have been good to us. You have been the pillars of this particular company. During this period, we're talking about 30 days, 21 days that we're talking about. The employers should be saying, first and foremost, we want to play our part.
Mr. Nchalinchali, thank you very much for taking time to speak to us on this extraordinary day. We also speak to the SAF2 General Secretary, Zwelinzima Vavi, who joins us on the line as well. Mr. Vavi, thank you very much for your time. You've been a worker leader for almost your entire life. You are one of the main leaders of the workers in this country. How do you feel on this particular day?
Every worker, every employer, every member of the family, particularly the working class, don't defy, don't cut corners, don't expose your family to this, don't expose the loved ones, comply with the lockdown, stay at home behind closed doors, and take full advantage of the 21 days to rather ensure that you address your absence over a long period of time as an activist and as a worker. That's the plea that we want to make. Don't take chances. Having said that, we are indicted by calls from workers. You know, employers in the private sector will always want to cut corners. There are just too many calls that we're getting at this moment of employers refusing to pay workers and forcing them to sign for paid leave instead, meaning that they must now sacrifice their annual leave as if they are responsible for the coronavirus. And that's where the challenge is at this particular moment. And the second point is that notwithstanding all of the press statements, there's still huge concerns amongst the health workers themselves in the public sector. Some still don't have protective clothing as we speak. And secondly, some are in total, let me say there's a total confusion about tomorrow. There's no transport arranged for many of the social services workers from and to work. You remember these calls that are being made that the taxi associations must stop operating, I think, at 9 o'clock. And after 9, these people will be knocking off. Thirdly, there is a lack of coordination as to which hospitals have been forced to put aside beds to cater for people who may be sick even during the lockdown. And that's a reflection of what we fear, the coordination or for a government that will not be able to deal with the details of coordination amongst themselves. We were always worried about this flood of press conferences of everybody wanting to appear on television and without the proper coordination with the lead minister, the Minister of Health. And I think now we're beginning to see some signs that the workers are going to suffer tomorrow, including those that want to help. They may not be able to go to work, and they may not be able to come out of work and join their families thereafter.
Well, Mr. Vavi, thank you very much for your time. I think we must leave it there because we've run out of time. For me, it's goodbye, and I hope everyone stays safe, all of us and our families. The program continues after the break.